Lesson 87, Upote. Catherine, isn't it funny how many Greek words are just combinations of two smaller Greek words?
It really is. It's very helpful quite often because not all the time, but sometimes the word is just, if you break down the constituent parts, you get the meaning of the word. Now, that's not the case every time, particularly if you're working with verbs. However, here, it is the case.
And so the parts here we have are u, which they already know, the word u or uk or uch.
Right.
Which means not. And then pote means at some time or at any time. So anyway, if you put u and pote together, you get upote, which means not at any time. And so therefore, never.
Is this their first adverb?
I never thought of that before. This might be their first adverb.
I think it is.
Because they haven't had always or daily or any of those.
Yeah. So I think this is their first adverb.
That's a great observation, Catherine. First of all, let's mention what an adverb is. An adverb is a word that describes or modifies a verb. It tells you how the action is happening. An adjective is a word that describes a noun, but an adverb is a word that describes a verb.
And helpfully, the word verb is actually in adverb, and so it helps to remember that adverbs describe verbs.
I guess you could say it adds to a verb.
Pretty much.
Kind of a silly mnemonic, but you know what I always say, the sillier the mnemonic, the more likely it is to work, because you'll probably remember it. So over the past few lessons, we've been talking about context and using context to help yourself figure out how you'll translate a present tense verb. Will you use the simple present or will you use the progressive present? If you see the verb trecho, will you translate it as I run or I am running? And so with adverbs, such as our new word for this lesson, upote, adverbs can be words that help provide you with the context you need to help yourself figure out the best way to translate a verb. And so with that in mind, here in this particular lesson, you're getting your first adverb. And so now, Catherine, we can start to help build context into a sentence that perhaps will suggest a good way to translate the verb within the sentence and help the reader figure out whether to use the simple present or the present progressive.
So for upote, because it talks about something more in a zoomed out manner, this never happens, I never do this, you never do that, it usually goes better with the simple present. For example, in our example sentence, ego upote trecho, I never run. I am never running in English sounds rather odd, but I never run sounds perfectly normal.
Right, because the word never has kind of a general sense to it.
Right.
It encompasses lots and lots of time, and so the simple present also has a general kind of feeling to it. So they kind of match like that, right?
Yes, neither of them is bound to a particular time, and so they both work together very well.
So here we have a concrete example of a Greek adverb providing some context, some other material in the sentence that can help the reader figure out a good way to render it into English.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll see that in the future with more adverbs. In this book, we have several more adverbs to learn as we go along. Let's look at a couple of exercises briefly before we move on. Number 1, hokadmos upote treche. Here we have treche, the third person singular form of trecho. And so treche means he, she, or it runs, or he, she, or it is running. We don't need the pronoun included in treche because we have a separate word, kadmos, to be the subject. And finally, the adverb upote means never. So for number 1, we could say, Cadmus is never running. But with the adverb upota here, it sounds better to say Cadmus never runs, because it just sounds more natural with that adverb never present there in the sentence.
In number 2, upote trajes, we have no explicit subject. There's no pronoun si, there's no noun there. So we have to use the pronoun embedded within trajes to say you never run. And I say you never run because upote, because of its non-time-bound nature, goes better with the simple present than with the progressive.
Right. It just sounds better to say you never run rather than you are never running.
Yes.
So it just sounds more natural in that particular case.